Hi everyone, Lulu here. My sincerest apologies. I actually forgot to record this week's session, so I'm here today to help re-record all of the content. I've noted some of the questions that people asked during the session, but I may have forgotten some things. If you all have any additional questions or if there's anything that you want further explained from this video, please let me know, or you can post it in the community and I can answer it or someone else can answer it as well. Um, but yeah, without further ado, I'll go ahead and try and show you all everything that we covered during the session, and I'll also try and make this video a little bit shorter than the session was. So yeah, today we're talking about lower schools, and it says fall 25 here because we did a lower school session a little under or a decent bit under a year ago, in December 2024. And so today I wanted to do a refresh of that and kind of cover some new topics and also bring some new people up to speed. So, as always, we'll start with some ice-breaking news. Then I'll cover the chats for teachers and how teachers can use chats to save their own time and really customize that experience. And then I'll cover lower school activities with some examples, pro tips for building out activities specifically for younger students. And then there's a couple teachers who agreed to share some of their experiences, so I'll include that in here. And yeah, we collected some feedback at the end, which I can also touch on. I have it in my notes. Yeah, as always, this recording, you're probably watching it, will be available later. Questions are welcome at any time. I guess this is more for the live session, but yeah. So for this week's icebreaking news, I did want to cover a bit more of a serious topic, and that is the situation with Adam Rain, and also especially the new ChatGPT parental controls that they're putting out. But essentially, for people who maybe have not been exposed to the story yet, Adam was having a tough time with his mental health, and he was sharing a lot of his desire to end his life with ChatGPT. And when it happened and his family was devastated, they found that within his ChatGPT messages, Chat was actually, encouraging Adam to hide things from his family and giving him tips on how to do what unfortunately was on his mind. So yeah, the family is suing OpenAI, and ChatGPT has come out with these new parental controls where parents can attach their accounts to their teens' accounts so they can see what the teen is saying. But essentially, as you can see from the headline here, the family is saying that that's not enough. And, I think we as a team kind of want to just point out we agree that that is not enough. And the reason I bring this story up in this session, not only because it's relevant in the news, but also because I think students need to be taught how to interact with AI, and those proactive guardrails and oversight need to be in place, which is a lot of what we built Flint around, and the whole reason why we focus specifically on schools, because we see that this technology is so powerful, right? But it can also be really dangerous if misused. So that's why we focus a lot on how to make it a safe space. But I think most importantly for this group, for the people who are watching this recording, I do believe that AI literacy starts in lower school, as you're starting to get a grasp of what this technology is, how it impacts your world, and what sorts of things that you can do with it. I think it's really important to show younger students, how this is not an actual human. This is a machine. It doesn't actually care about you. It isn't built to be able to do that. And how they need to be critical when they're interacting with the tools that might be available to them, and just making sure that things like this don't happen again, unfortunately. But yeah. On that note, I'll continue with the rest of the slides, but I think it's just something good to keep in mind, And like the reason why our team at least encourages schools not to ignore their lower schools when it comes to the AI rollout, because it's so important to like address this at an early age before students start to, form their own conceptions that might not be guided about what AI is and what role it plays in their life. Yeah, and so with that, I'll move on to some examples for chats for teachers, and how you can use chats to save your own time. But essentially, Sparky is built to, not only support students, but also be your teaching assistant. And so in this, it can generate, analyze text, images, audio, drawings, and websites. So anything you upload into the platform or anything that you create within the platform, it can help you generate or analyze that. It can also remember key characteristics about you. This is kind of new. I'll show you all how to like use that feature. We're calling it memory, but essentially you can like tell it, hey, I'm a third grade teacher from North Carolina or Mexico, and like it would give you very different experiences after that. And then thirdly here, I put it's securely processing all of the information that you upload and all of the conversations that you have with it. So our team doesn't train any AI models of our own. We use, the state-of-the-art AI models that are being created by these giant companies. We just add things on top of it to make it school appropriate and safe. And in that process, we've signed agreements with these companies where essentially we pay them more money and then they don't use any of the information that's uploaded into their systems, and they can't save any of it. They can't use any of it for training. And on our side, we keep all of the information separate per school so that, you won't be seeing things from other schools unless they proactively share it with you. But yeah, that's kind of the overview of chats and kind of why we encourage teachers to try using them as their own teaching assistant. On the right hand side here, you can see like some examples, which I will also touch on in a second. But yes, so Sparky as your teaching assistant can, help with lesson planning, image generation, worksheet generation, feedback with writing, differentiation of materials, research partner, or be a thought partner. And let me actually start to just show you what this looks like. So within Flint, I know a lot of people who registered for this event are a bit new to Flint, so I'll just give a quick explanation here. But essentially, you'll see chats, and then if you scroll down, you'll see activities. We'll touch on activities a bit later, but they're essentially like chat bots that you can design for your students, where they have specific personalities, they follow specific guidelines. There's like you can like add a specific grading rubric, and that sort of interaction is very curated by you. Whereas the chats are more free-form conversations that you have with the AI one-on-one. And yeah, this is where I'm going to start now and kind of talk about how Flint can be a good teaching assistant for you. So yeah, yes, and then these are shortcuts, as we call them, kind of some popular use cases of chats that we've pulled out and made front and center so it's easy to access for you all. But of course, anytime you can ask it to help you with something else. So that's what I'm going to choose here. And then I'm going to say, I'm going to give it some context on me firstly. And I'm going to say like, hey, I'm a third grade teacher at an IB school in Mexico. My students learn in both English and Spanish. Yeah, and then I'm going to send this to the AI. And then, Sparky will say, let me memorize this. Hopefully you caught it there. But yeah, essentially it's noting that, I'm a third grade teacher, IB school in Mexico, working with bilingual students. And it's going to start using that context moving forward as it interacts with me. So let's say, as an example of, lesson planning, I'm going to ask it, or I'm going to tell it, I want to do a unit on environmental awareness and conservation. And I heard about how the country of Kenya created a tree planting holiday. And so I'm asking it to kind of be a research assistant here, and asking, are there any countries that have also taken national measures to promote environmental awareness and conservation? beyond tree planting is what I put, because it kept giving me tree planting examples when I was testing this. But yeah, you can see Sparky is saying, let me search the internet, which it's able to do, and then it's able to cite its sources that it's found. So it really is a pretty good research assistant, at least for getting like started and getting like a baseline of the information. And so here it's like, yeah, looking up various countries, putting out like key points on what their environmental strategies and policies are. And then for any of these, let me scroll up a little bit. For any of these, like blue numbers, that's where it's citing the information that it's finding. And then you can click on any of these websites, and then it will show you where it's actually getting that. So you can kind of do your due diligence and see if that's like a trustworthy site, if it's updated and whatnot. Yeah, and so yeah, it's come up with all of these examples, and it's also reconnecting it, of course, to my bilingual third graders, which is great because it has that context on me. So then I'm going to ask it, what are some lesson plan options that could cover these topics and promote student agency, especially as the primary years program of the IB emphasizes, you know? So now it's saying like, okay, here's some ideas. We could do some inquiry-based lessons with environmental detectives, design your own environmental policy, environmental action fair, global solutions network. Yeah, and then it's even giving some like key concepts to explore, learner profile development, and transdisciplinary connections, which are all key to IB education as well. But let's say I like country environmental detectives. And then I want it to make a document with the rubric for this activity, make sure the rubric has 2 versions, one in English and one in Spanish. And yeah, here's just to demonstrate how Sparky can create documents, as it's saying right now. And those documents can contain multitudes of, text. We recently added math equations as well. And yeah, and it can make that in different languages and really help you quickly with the generation side of things, whether it be rubrics or worksheets or project documents, what have you. And it might take a second, so while it's doing that, let me also show you what you yourself can upload into Flint. So from here, oh, never mind, it was faster than I expected. But yeah, let me show you the upload anyways. From here, you can, in any of the message bars in Flint, whether it be in a chat or while you're building out an activity or interacting with an activity, you and your students can create documents where you can write things and have the AI analyze that, or you can draw on a whiteboard. This has, additional drawing capabilities. If you paste an image in here, you can draw on top of that image. You can write code, add links from the web, and even add math equations. And then when you're adding attachments, you also have the options to, attach from your local device or import from Google Drive or Microsoft OneDrive. And then here are also a bunch of the attachments that Flint has made for me throughout our various conversations. So you can also quickly access those and attach them into any new conversations that you're having. But yeah, so coming back to the actual document that I created, so it looks like it put it all in one document. There's the English version, and then here's the Spanish version. And it even like added assessment notes in both languages. And yeah, so this is great. You can of course ask it to make additional changes to it as you see fit, but you can also print it, which essentially saves it as a PDF. You can export it to Google Drive, you can download it as a Word document, or you can copy all of the content and paste it somewhere else. So those are some other ways that you can continue to edit it beyond like directly in the platform or asking Sparky to help you. Yeah, and then so finally with this example, we kind of talked about using Sparky as a research partner, giving it the memory about yourself, and then brainstorming partner with the lesson plans, and then a actual generation partner. And so finally, I'm actually going to ask it to think of some Flint activities that could be incorporated into this lesson. So Flint actually knows about itself. It's kind of self-aware in that way, and it knows like what sorts of settings it has for the activities and how to create those activities. It can also help you troubleshoot sometimes because it's trained on our documentation about the different features as well. But yeah, you can ask it anything like this in a chat, basically saying like, what are some activities that could be incorporated? And it will help you brainstorm what that can look like as well. So it's saying like a family perspectives debate, climate debate tutor, yeah, a dialogue about water equity. Yeah, and so there's a lot of like, it looks like it's bucketed into, directly relevant activities to supporting activities, and then even giving you some ideas on how to integrate those. Yeah. Yes, and then during the session, a lot of people had questions about memory specifically. So like, how do you make sure that you set it? How do you delete memories? How do you edit memories? And you can do all of that through the chats. So I can say something like, let's say I want to like set a new memory. I would just make sure to say like, hey, remember this. If you specifically say remember, it will remember it about you. But sometimes it will also like pick up on things that you might want remembered, and it will save that automatically as well. But I can say something like, remember that I like really concise explanations. Oh yes, and that's something I forgot to touch on. You can also record your voice, and that makes it a lot quicker to, interact with Sparky and get your ideas across. And it will actually transcribe that for you, so you can double check that it heard you correctly. And there's also the option to take photos. But yeah, so here it's being extra concise, like compared to what it was saying before. That's like a lot of detail. And now it's done that and really made it a lot conciser. And then so I can also ask it, what are the pieces of memory that you have on me? Or like, what do you remember about me, or anything like that? So that can help me, get an idea of what it knows about me. And then once it's created that, so it has like one on profile, one on preferences. So I can say like, change the profile to now be a AP school in California, and I no longer teach bilingual students. So that's how you can like make edits to it. And then finally, you can also ask it to like delete any of the specific memories, which I just won't show you because that should pretty self-explanatory. You can just tell it to delete that memory. But I also want to show you where these memories are actually stored also in the platform. So if you go to your name in the bottom left, and then you go to My Profile, then you can go to Profile Settings in the top right, and then here it will show you where your memories are stored, and then here you can like remove any memories that you want. I don't think you can actually edit these directly. That might be something that we add later on, but for now, editing the memories is all in the actual chats. And of course, you can delete from the chats as well. But yeah, if you delete anything, just make sure you click update. And yeah, that's how you can like clear the memory that Flint has about you. Cool. Okay, so with that all being said, yeah, Sparky is a very well-rounded teaching assistant. It can help you with all of these things and more. If you have any ideas that you're not sure about, feel free to like reach out to the community or reach out to me. And yeah, happy to see if it will work also. And yeah, cool. I guess one more thing, because it's kind of relevant on the support side of things. If you're ever in Flint and you have questions or feedback for the team, but you don't want to like draft a whole email, you can click on Learn More About Flint and then Help. And then here you will be brought to a panel where you can ask a question to our little help bot here. It's trained on all of our troubleshooting documents, so usually it does a pretty good job, but our team also monitors all of these conversations. So if there's anything that Finn can't answer, then our team can do that for you. So yeah, this is a great place to go if you have any questions. Okay, right, so now moving on to the lower school activities portion of this talk. And I'm gonna go ahead and just start off with a demonstration of one. So again, remember from the home page, we can create an activity, and I'm going to ask it to actually create a custom activity. There's all of these like other specific examples that we've pulled out similar to the chats, but I'm going to create a custom one here. Yeah, and actually if you, let me show this really quickly. If you click on any one of these, let's say like speak a world language with them, the perk here is that it will actually then give you follow-up prompts kind of describing what it is that it needs from you. Like what language are they speaking, what's the focus of the practice, what level are your students at, and that's just kind of helpful for, you know, remembering what it is exactly to provide as context to Sparky. Yeah, but anyways, I'm going to create a custom activity, and I'm going to ask it to create a spelling practice activity for second graders based on the spelling list, which I'm going to attach in a second, and I'm telling it only use words from this list. So I'm actually attaching a document from my computer, and then I'll send it there, but let me open this really quickly to show you all what it looks like once it sends. There we go. Yeah, so essentially it's this spelling list, just 2 pages, that has different words bucketed into units. So, you know, it has unit 1 up to unit 32, and yeah, just some examples. But of course, I told Flint just to stick with these words, but you could also tell Flint to like come up with new words. That's completely up to you. But yeah, so then it's asking like which units would you like to focus on, because I can see all the different units. What type of spelling practice are you looking for? How many words? Yeah, so it's giving a lot of extra questions here so that I can continue to help it focus in there. So yeah, let's just say do all the units. I want it to be interactive spelling games, or just a spelling test with immediate feedback. You can let the students choose. And then I want each practice to include 10 words, and yeah, give students a grade, but use grades that are friendly for second grade students. Yeah, and then from here, it should go ahead and create the activity for me. So it's going to say, let me think, let me set this up for you, and then it's saying, let me make changes. So actually, Flint will automatically write the settings for you, so you don't have to be like a pro prompt engineer to be able to use Flint. You just kind of have to know like what, kind of similar to when you're like talking with people, like what sorts of questions should you ask, what sort of context you need to give it. The way that we explain it is kind of like if you had a teaching assistant walk into your class and this was their first day, what would you tell them about your students and about your goals for the lesson? And yeah, so here it's like created an activity where, you know, it covers all 32 units. There's some student choice about how they want the interaction to go, 10 words per session, kid-friendly grades, spelling superstar, very cute. So yeah, I'm going to, or actually, so yeah, as you can see here on the left-hand side, this is where we've been messaging back and forth with Sparky, giving it more feedback. And then on the right-hand side here, what just appeared is actually the session preview. So from here, you can preview a session through a simulation where it pretends to both be itself and the student, and it will play through the conversation. There we go. To kind of give you an idea of what this looks like. Yeah, so here it's like playing the game with the student. which is kind of cool. And then, of course, you can also start a session manually. So here you can actually pretend to be the student yourself and send it messages and see how it responds. Yeah, but I guess like one thing, both very relevant to this activity and also relevant in general to lower schools, is the ability to have Flint speak to the student and for students to speak to it. So I'm actually going to ask it to make this activity listening only, and then allow students to type or speak their answers. This is very popular with lower school because, you know, some students are a bit overwhelmed by all this text, and then also some students like aren't quite as comfortable typing yet, so they prefer to speak to Flint. So this kind of just gives them a bunch more options, and you as the teacher can, of course, determine like which combination of input and output you want for each activity. But here I'm just like saying Sparky is speaking only because actually if it's like, you know, typing out the words, then the students can just look at the word and spell it based on what they see rather than actually remembering what the spelling is. So that's also like another reason that I'm adding that into this activity. And then I also want to do a couple more things in terms of personalizing this activity. So firstly, these are both things to personalize the activity based on how the student interacts, so how each student interacts. So here I'm saying like when students are doing well, give them harder words to spell. If they struggle, give them easier words, you know, kind of like leveling it like a good teaching assistant would. And then I'm also asking it, after 10 words, reward students by generating an image of their favorite animal winning a spelling bee. So that could be also a fun addition and motivation for the students. And I remember in the session someone was asking like, oh, how will it know like what the student's favorite animal is? And actually I'll show you an example after this of what that actually looks like. But Flint kind of knows to ask, which is great. So at the end of the 10 words, it'll actually ask the student, hey, what's your favorite animal? I'll generate an image for you of them winning a spelling bee. Yeah, and then cool. And then I think one more thing, I think if we try it out manually, we'll see this. So what we just saw there actually are the initial suggestions. So these are just like quick suggestions that students can send to Flint. That we call initial suggestions. And then as the students are interacting.
Great choice!
I don't know if I have to listen through that or not. But it looks like the subsequent suggestions, oh, there we go. The subsequent suggestions will also pop up sometimes. So I would just like, for things like this specifically, test it out, see if it's like giving away too much in the subsequent suggestions. Then you might want to like, you know, either remove those or edit the prompting around that so that it doesn't, you know, spell the words for the students in the suggestions. That would be counterproductive. But yeah, that's kind of how this typically works. You can go back and forth with Sparky and testing it in the preview. So that's how I usually design activities and how I help teachers design activities. We'll like give it some context, then we'll try it out, then we'll give it more context. And yeah, it's kind of all about finding that sweet spot. And then once you're happy with the activity, you can actually create the activity in the top right. Make sure to click that, otherwise it won't save. And then from here, it's super easy to just share this link with students. So you can either copy it, or I've seen, especially for lower schools where students might be using iPads, I've seen teachers take this link and make it into a QR code and then put it on the board so that students can just scan it and then log in and get started. Of course, like for your own purposes or for the students' purpose, sometimes you can also move it to different groups and whatnot. And then someone in the session asked, like, can I work on activities with other people? And yes, of course. So also in this sharing activity panel, which, you know, if you close it out, it's located in the top right here. Here you can add other people that you want to be owners of the activity. So I'm going to go ahead and invite Sohan. And then from here, by default, he's a member, so that means that he can interact with the sessions, but he doesn't see like the settings or all of the sessions that students are having. But like if you co-teach a course, or if you're like sharing this activity with another teacher, then I would just make sure to make them an owner and then click update. And you can like notify them that that's happening, of course. So that's an easy way to make it so that you both can edit this activity and see the results from it. But of course, if you all have edited an activity together and then you want to like assign the activity to your own respective classes, then I would recommend duplicating the activity. One of you can duplicate it to your own space, and then you'll have 2 copies, and then one person can use one copy, the other can use the other, and then you'll have like all of your student sessions separate, and then that will also make sure that like the analytics are separate for your 2 classes as well. Yeah, same kind of logic applies for if you teach multiple classes of the same subject or something like that. So yeah, that's kind of how that works. Yeah, and then when it comes to the student responses, so I actually made, or Sun made the same activity and then some of us responded to it. This is kind of what it looks like. So just as a reminder, you know, this was the empty version where there's no analytics yet, there's no needs attention messages, and there's no sessions. And then once things start to happen, you'll get some activity analytics. If anything needs attention, that will get highlighted for you, and all of the sessions from the students will also be shown to you. So yeah, kind of what this looks like is in any specific session, you can, these will show up like as they go. So like, you know, these 3 have been submitted and are showing the grades, but there's also one that I made that hasn't yet been submitted, but it's in progress. But you know, anyone who is an owner of the activity, which would be the teachers in this case, can see both the completed and the in progress sessions. And then for each of these sessions, you can see the full transcript. If I close this, it's a bit easier to read. You can see the full transcript of how the students did. You can listen to anything that Sparky said, of course, but you can also listen to what the student said. So, haha, that's my name. It's S-U-N. Yeah, that's actually me responding for Sun, but yeah, that's kind of how that works. Also, you can like listen to what the student said. And then on top of that, there's all of this feedback that gets given. So you can add your own teacher feedback, but by default, Flint buckets feedback into strengths, areas of improvement, and then a suggested follow-up. And then so here you can kind of look at what the evidence for this feedback is. And then this is also shown to the students directly after they complete it. And you can change the grade. Yes, and then a couple things about this feedback that people asked in the session were, you know, can this feedback be in different languages? And then can the feedback be simplified for younger students? And in the live session, I said yes, but actually I tested it out, and there's actually no way for Sparky to edit that right now. So I'll submit a feature request for that to our team, and hopefully they can build something out for that soon so that we can start making the analytics more, you know, specialized to the different teachers and the different students that might be using Flint. So yeah, great suggestion. Cool. Okay, I'm just checking my notes to make sure that I'm not missing anything. Okay, cool. And then, yeah, so then as you could see there was like all of the text. Oh, this one actually also got analyzed.
Great try. You got most of the letters right.
It automatically analyzes it sometimes. But yeah, this is kind of what the session looks like before it's submitted. Earlier we could see, you know, the text from Sparky, but that's only because it's been submitted, and just for ease of reading for the teachers, we transcribe it after that. But while the students are interacting with it, you know, they'll just see the listen button, so they can't see any of the messages that Flint is creating. Cool. And then a couple more things in the overview here. Anything that needs attention, this will show up live. So for example, like if Xander was not engaging in the activity, Flint will actually let you know that this is happening. You can like click on this to see where in the session they're not engaging. This isn't fun, I don't want to do it. Yeah, and then of course that's like just giving you more data points as a teacher so that you can see like if you need to go like talk to that student in person or help them out with something. That's a new feature that we added. And then earlier we were looking at the session analytics, so analytics specific to one student, but there's also activity analytics that get created once 3 or more sessions have been submitted, and this kind of summarizes across the board of the submissions so far, like the strengths, areas of improvement, and a suggested follow-up for your entire class. So that's also useful to check out after your students have interacted with the activity. Great. Yeah, so that's one of the examples. And then I'll just cover some like usage tips specific to lower school as well. A lot of these we already touched on, of course, but just to kind of summarize everything and like use it as a, a short cheat sheet. But yeah, text to speech, speech to text, great for accommodating reading and typing difficulties. And this also can come in different languages as well. So Sparky can speak, I think, 200 plus different dialects. So yeah, anything that your students need there can be helped. And then yeah, also make sure to set an appropriate reading level. So when you're talking with Sparky, tell it like, oh, we're like US second grade or UK year 3 or something like that. And then for world languages, we also have CEFR and ACTFL levels. And of course, you can also like combine these. Like maybe you're like, hey, I have 9th grade students, but they're at, CEFR level A2. So kind of like, hey, older students, but simpler understanding of the language, then that can also be really good context to share with Flint. One thing I didn't show was that you can actually change the speaking speed of Sparky as well. We have like from 0.5 to 1.5, but you might even be able to like ask it for even slower or even faster. But yeah, that just changes how fast Sparky speaks. If you have students who are like, still getting used to speaking or listening, that can help a lot. And then, yeah, make sure you change the grading scale to one that fits your classroom. If you upload a rubric that you already have, that's great. Then Flint can just put that into its own settings and build off of that. But of course, if you don't, you can also like describe what it is that you want to evaluate students on, how you want to give them feedback, and it can create a grading scale for you. And then finally, the QR code thing works well for students who might use iPads. Yeah, and then again, a bit more of like a cheat sheet thing here. I won't like go through examples for all of these or anything, but in terms of like prompting and customizing Sparky, these are some of my suggestions. So, give it context about your student's age, reading level, etc. Kind of talked about that already. Upload rubrics and examples if you have them. That's really helpful for Sparky to understand like how you want things formatted and what sort of complexity you want to cover things in. And then, yeah, you can ask Flint to help you brainstorm or troubleshoot different things. And then make sure you always test and adjust your activities. And then for customizing Sparky, there's a couple things here that I think I haven't touched on yet, but adding a persona is really great. That kind of helps it to, hone in on like specific types of interactions. A lot of the times when teachers are struggling with getting Sparky to act in a certain way or give feedback in a certain way, sometimes I tell them, hey, like just add a persona, like tell it it's a writing coach, or like tell it it's a language speaking partner, and that helps a lot. So kind of giving it personality and goals really help there. Yeah, you can say like ask guiding questions, do not provide answers. Sometimes you need to like stress that a bit more because AI is meant to be like super helpful by default, so it's kind of like we're fighting against the tide there. And then you can ask it things like ask one question at a time, focus on one topic at a time. That can help like make sure that younger students especially aren't as overwhelmed. And then of course you can ask Sparky to be more concise and use simpler language as well, which I think I showed you all. Yeah, and then I have a couple slides just specific to ways that teachers in lower schools have been using Flint. So for example, Carrie from Parker was using Flint as a so that she could be a rotating facilitator. So like instead of a long line of students waiting to show me their feedback, they can all get feedback in Flint, and then she could go around and meet with students one-on-one. And even while she's meeting with students one-on-one, she knows that other students are getting help. Or actually, that might have come from a different lower school teacher. But yeah, and then Carrie said like, she's never seen her students so engaged in editing. Initially, she had only put like a 30-minute time limit on an assignment, but the students begged her to extend it, so that was really cool to see. And then you can also, the format in Flint doesn't have to be one-to-one. You can use Flint for group work. I've even heard of teachers like using Flint as a station when they have like station rotation days. Yeah, and I linked a blog post here from a teacher at NJIS where the students were actually like using Flint as a endangered species expert and using that as a kind of simulated interview where they're asking the expert different questions, and then they were completing these projects of theirs on these worksheets. And yeah, so that was really cool. But there's also one very early on example that I saw of Flint. This must have been like years ago. But a teacher actually put Flint up on the board, and then they interacted with it as a class. So it was like, being kind of like a prompter, and then the teacher could interact with the students, and then they can all figure out together like how they want to respond to Flint. So that's also like a good like introductory activity, especially if you're still like in the process of introducing your students to what Flint is, how to use it, how you interact with it. Yeah, and then I would just say like, continue to encourage critical thinking from students, allowing them to be advocates for their own learning. And so like this example here was a teacher created a Padlet so that students could screenshot anything that they thought like Flint was wrong about or that they're confused about, and then just put it in there. It could be anonymous, and then at the end of the activity they would go through it together so that everyone can kind of learn from that process. So yeah, it was a great source of dialogue and discussion, and kind of gives students both the like permission to think that Flint isn't right immediately, and also the space to kind of talk about it and learn from those experiences where they might be confused or offended or whatever it might be. Yeah, and then so the last thing for activities here is I wanted to touch on how activities don't have to just be student facing. You can also create activities for yourself. I create activities for myself all the time, at least. And on the right hand side here, you can see like I found a bunch of templates from the public library where the activities could be created for other teachers. So for example, you could create activities to help you with lesson planning, with writing, grading, image generating, what have you. And like I would just think about like what are some things that you kind of do a lot in a recurring fashion, and then maybe there's something there that a Flint activity could help you with. But yeah, let me show you an example of what or how you could build that out actually. So let me come back here. But really quickly before I show you that, I did forget to touch on the school library and the public library. So these are essentially like template libraries where you can find examples of things and copy them to your own workspace and use them. These have all been proactively published by teachers to this library, so like don't worry, we're not like automatically publishing anything that you create. And then if there's anything specific that you like, you can click on it, you can duplicate this to your own workspace, and that will essentially create a copy for you where you can like start using it right away, but you can also like edit it or further refine it to fit your specific needs. And then the school library is the same, except it's just within your school. So this is a great place to share things with, like other teachers at your school, or maybe even for administration to share like teacher tools as well. So yeah, those are great resources. But anyways, I'll go back to activities. So either on your homepage or here, I'll just like go to my activities and click create an activity. This will bring me to this page again. And then let me just copy this. So I'm just going to say, like, I'm a 5th grade teacher. I want you to be my slide crafting partner. And I'll tell you the topic of the class. I want you to create an image for it and then write a haiku to start off the day. And I'm just giving it extra context of, like, I'm using these slides at the beginning of each week. And then also our school mascot is the yellow jacket, Buzz. I'm a Georgia Tech grad, so I had to. And then I said incorporate him into the images whenever it makes sense. So yeah, like, you can create this activity. And then, I might need to actually put that image in, like, separately, paste it. But yeah, that's like kind of an example of what that prompt could be. And I think I actually already created it. So let me show you this instead so it's a bit faster. But yeah, weekly slide crafting with Buzz. As you can see, all of these are just like sessions with myself. But, you know, here, this is kind of how it went, where it has this first message. I say, like, this week we're covering XYZ topic. And then it says perfect. And then it creates an image for it. It writes me a haiku. And then you can also ask it to, like, edit that image or that haiku as necessary for each week. But then, like, for each session, I'm just, like, creating a new, or for each new request, I'm just creating a new session. So, like, here I'm just saying, like, you know, the water cycle in its stages, and then it creates it. And then the next week maybe could be, states of matter. And then maybe the next one would be, I think, branches of government. Yes. So we have a little governmental Buzz here. But yeah, that's kind of how you can interact with it. And then, of course, as you kind of keep using it, you can, like, see, like, oh, like, maybe every single time I keep needing to tell it, like, remember that, I don't know, don't use, like, too complex words in the haiku so that students can understand it. Or maybe, like, eventually you're like, oh, I want to change the haiku to, like, a short AB rhyme scheme poem instead. And so as you're using it over time, you can always go back into the activity settings and make new changes to it. So for example, here I can say, like, actually change it from a haiku to a short 4-line AB rhyme scheme. And yeah, then it can, like, adjust to your requests over time. And yeah, that's kind of how you can build out your own assistants that are hyper customized to you. Cool. Okay. Yes, and then so next is the shareout and feedback section. I'll kind of touch on what the teachers shared with me here, but really quickly also, one of the questions that was asked during the session was, you know, how can I get more feedback about my students? Specifically, if I remember correctly, that teacher was asking, how can I ask, like, how specific students are doing across different activities, not just within one activity? And then how can I, like, bucket students together based on how they're performing in class? So I did want to show you all, so this is the perk of, like, making sure that all of your activities are in the same group. Within this group, if you go to the 3 dots here and then click on View Analytics, you'll actually get, well, to the analytics page. And on this page, there's, like, a lot of, you know, data points here, kind of talking about, like, you know, how students are doing. If there's any inappropriate messages, those also get flagged for you. But I think the cool part of this is also that you can actually ask in this chat for Sparky to help analyze your students. So, you know, you can say, like, how is so-and-so doing across activities? Or, like, hey, like, bucket my students into a couple different groups based on what skills need to be supported this week, or something like that. And I will just say, with a caveat, AI still kind of has a limitation on how much information it can process at once. So if you do have, like, a lot of sessions in here, it might not be able to, like, super accurately, you know, give you analyses about your students. But I do think it's like kind of self-aware about that, and also I would just, as always with AI, just double check, kind of do your due diligence that what it's suggesting to you is validated by data and stuff. But yeah, might be a cool resource to check out. Hopefully, some of you all can try it and let me know how it goes. If there's anything that you want to see improved about that, please let our team know. We're always looking for how we can make improvements to the product there. Okay, I know I promised that I would make this recording shorter, but there's just a lot to get through. So, I asked a couple of lower school teachers using Flint if they have like anything that they want to share during the session, and Ty from Westminster Schools actually gave me a couple of different things. So she's giving us some context on what she's doing right now with her teachers and students. Because beyond being a lower school teacher, she also is the innovation strategist and design thinking teacher at Westminster. So she was kind of describing how in September she's hosting bite-sized innovation sessions that focus on how to use chats to differentiate lesson plans, which I think I like kind of showed, but there's a lot more that you can do there, and Ty is having like a whole session about it at her school. And and also like how to create activities that provide one-on-one tutoring experiences. So feel free to read through this in the slides, or you can pause here and read through it. But she likes how Flint protects the student data, and also can you can like attach student profiles and ask Flint to point out areas for differentiation, and kind of be a brainstorming partner and a analyst at the same time. And then also specifically for, 3rd through 5th grade, the design thinking teachers at her school got a curriculum grant. So now they have like a whole AI portion to their digital literacy curriculum. And so here she's kind of describing what the different levels look like for the different grade levels. In 3rd grade, they're talking about like what is artificial intelligence, how machines learn, and then she listed the resources that they're using there, like Day of AI and code.org resources. And then in 4th grade, focusing on how AI makes decisions, creating flowcharts, building robot prototypes, and modeling their flowcharts. And then in 5th grade, they're making their own decision thinking projects, and kind of focusing on the ethical, responsible, moral, and environmental issues around AI usage. And this is just like a very brief overview of what she's doing. I'm sure if you all have any questions specific to how this looks, Ty would be happy to share. So you can reach out to me or post in the community, and I'll like point Ty in that direction to see if she can give some more feedback there, or some more context there. And then Ruban also helped to record this video about how he's been using AI with his students. So I'll just go ahead and play this for you here. It was really great for him to like make a whole video for this. So
hello everyone, my name is Ruben Armugam, and I'm a primary school teacher from Malaysia. And I'm honored to be part of the Flint Innovative Educator, and I'm very excited to share my journey with you in this Campfire section. For your information, most of my students come from what we call B40 community in Malaysia. These terms refer to the bottom 40% of household in terms of income. In simple words, it means families who face economic challenges and often have limited access to resources, including technology. When I first joined my school, many of my students had never really used AI tools before, and even basic digital learning felt new to them. My own journey with AI started a few years ago when I began exploring how technology could help bridge learning gaps for students in rural schools. I was fascinated by the idea that AI could make learning more personalized, meeting each child where they are rather than forcing everyone into the same box. When I discovered Flint, I saw it the potential to support not just my teaching, but my student confidence and curiosity. When I introduced Flint to my younger students, I want to make sure it didn't feel scary or complicated. So instead of calling it an AI platform, I introduced it as a learning bud. This friendly framing worked really, really well. At first, the children were shy, unsure of what to type or ask, but they started small with a simple quizzes, short poems, and reading materials. Slowly, they began realize that Flynn could respond to them, guide them, and even tell them stories. Very quickly, what was unfamiliar becomes something exciting for them. My advice for using Flynn with younger learners is to start small and make it playful. Children respond best when learning feels like a game. So I used the Flynn to create bite-sized activities that don't overwhelm them. For example, after a short Flynn genetic quiz, we made do a drawing or role play activity to extend the learning. This balance of AI and hands-on interaction keeps the classroom lively and makes sure technology serves as support, not a replacement. I repeat the words, technology serves as a support, not a replacement. In terms of designing activity, personalization has been the key. Flynn allowed me to instantly generate practice material at a different level. My faster learners get challenges that push them forward, while others receive extra practice without feeling left behind. One of the most popular activity is story time. The students absolutely love when Flynn create short story with their own name as the characters. It makes them laugh, it makes them proud, and most importantly, it makes learning feel like it belongs to them. I also use Flynn for daily warm-up, a brain teaser or puzzle at the start of the class, set up positive and curiosity for the day. In my own daily routine, Flynn saves me valuable preparation time and gives me fresh creative ideas. In a mixed ability classroom, this is a huge benefit. I don't have to spend hours preparing separate materials because Flynn helped me differently instantly. At the same time, it sparked new lesson ideas that I may not have imagined my own. The impact on my students has been powerful. Children who once hesitated to try new eagerly look forward to Flynn activities. Even those who struggle academically have found confidence because Flynn gives them explanation at their own pace. What touched me most is seeing children from low resources background students who never imagined using advanced technology now feeling very excited, capable, and included in this digital journey. If there is one takeaway I love to leave with you today, it is this: AI is not here to replace us. It is here to empower us. When used thoughtfully, Flynn can help us make learning more personal, more inclusive, and more inspiring. My journey showed that even in rural resources limited setting, innovation is possible if we approach it with creativity, patience, and with love. Thank you for listening, and I'm excited to keep learning and growing together with all of
you. Yeah, super sweet, Gio from Mubon. I like how he mentioned that he introduced Flint as a learning buddy. And yeah, how he's like incorporating a lot more fun into the activities and the personalization piece of things. So yeah, my advice here, and I think Ruban's advice is like, just try it out. Don't take it too seriously. I feel like when I talk to some teachers, they get really stressed about it. But even if you just like introduce Flint as a learning buddy, and then also introduce like the whole experience of Flint as an experiment, I think that has been really good for setting the expectations of students as they're starting to explore the platform with you. Okay. Yeah, so just to wrap up the session, these are some of the sessions that I'm thinking of having soon. Yeah, I'll start posting them on the calendar once they're like fully set in stone. But this is kind of like what the schedule for this semester is looking like. And yeah, if there's any specific things that you want me to incorporate into these sessions, I know like in the live session for this week, we actually talked about like, you know, the self-harm stuff, the moderation pieces. We'll probably have that in either the administration session or the customizing your assistant session, maybe both. And yeah, like if there's anything that you want to suggest that we cover, please let me know. If you want to present at any of these sessions and do a share out, please also let me know. I'm also always looking for teachers to share their ideas here, because you know the campfires are meant to be everyone's telling stories around the campfire, not just me yapping at all of you. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at right now. I'll post this recording online at flintk12.com/webinars, but again, if you're watching this, you probably already found it. And as always, here are the final QR codes. The Campfire calendar QR code here, you can subscribe to be notified of when new sessions are posted. And that's also where you like register for them. And I also send the registrants the recording directly. We also have a new Instagram, still new, I think it's been like about a month. But this is where we've been posting like specific tips for teachers. I know a lot of our social media is like administrator focused, but our Instagram is actually teacher focused, and we want to like include tips, stories from other teachers, all of that on our Instagram. And then the Flint community, which I've mentioned a couple times now. If you haven't joined it, highly recommend. This is where we're trying to gather all of the Flint users across the world, so that they can kind of have an entire space to themselves that kind of doubles as like a forum /Q&A/tech support. Yeah, and you're welcome to post in there anytime about, you know, what sorts of ideas you might be trying, what sorts of ideas you want others' inputs on. Yeah, even things that have worked really well for you, or maybe things that didn't work really well and you learned from. Any stories that you can share in there are much appreciated. But yeah, thank you so much for joining me this week. Apologies again that I don't have the actual recording. I have put new measures in place to make sure this doesn't happen again. Yeah, hopefully also you enjoyed this like more high definition recording. We might try this platform in future sessions, but we'll see. Yeah, cool. Thanks everyone. Bye.